Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abassi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I have to go to the dentist. I'm sorry. I get to go to the dentist. And I am grateful that I am not getting another crown. I am simply going in for a cleaning. So now that I've said that out loud, I don't feel so bad about going to the dentist. And that's all it takes. That's what it takes for me to make a change in my mindset early in the morning. This morning, it's Thursday, so we had a meditation meeting and we again listened to some amazing music. And I was a little leery about shifting our meditation from listening to the Calm app, listening to Tamara talk about a topic, to listening to different kinds of soothing music. But I'm on board. It only took one 10-minute session for me to be like, yeah, this is nice. So I was thinking about meditation and what that was like for me in the beginning and what it's like for me now and what is going through my head when I'm meditating. Because as much as I have shared with you that I have the ability to just let go of everything and think of nothing during meditation, it takes work. So what is happening in that work? And then our thought for the day, which is what we read before we meditate, is it's interesting because the thought for the day, if you look it up on hazeldenbettyford.org, it's talking about today how it just speaks to everything that I experienced when I was drinking. It talks about we drink and we don't learn anything from our drinking experiences. So we just keep making the same mistakes, and we keep suffering the same consequences over and over again. I would add to that it it continuously got a little worse every time. I would not just make the same mistakes, but they would just be a little bit worse. It was like I was testing. Remember, I said I love to learn things the hard way, and I like to invest myself in good things very slowly. Well, I was making a little bit worse mistakes and a little bit worse mistakes, getting to a new low each time, you know. Well, this didn't happen yet, so I keep pushing my limits until it does happen, whatever negative consequence that is. And I just did it over and over again, never admitting that I was an alcoholic. I thought that I could handle my drinking. I thought that although not feeling brave, sorry, not feeling terribly brave, I thought the reason why things are overwhelming to me is because I am, well, more so, I have anxiety. I had debilitating anxiety. And that's why I felt like I couldn't handle stuff. That's why I thought life was becoming unmanageable. Truly, that's what I thought was wrong with me. I was not willing to admit that I was behaving differently than ordinary drinkers. I could see that I like it just a little bit more. I could see that I really was experiencing this like almost ecstasy type feeling when I would drink. Ecstasy is not the right word, but it's the only one that's coming to my mind right now. It was just when I would drink, and I've talked about it, like there's this full release that I felt within me that was like, everything is okay right now. And that is what that feeling that I had. Sorry, I have a tickle in my chest. I've been having that since I was working on one of my crafts that required me to use Mod Podge. And I was in a closed room with Mod Podge for like an hour. And I think it actually um, negatively affected maybe the insides of my breathing pipes, but it's getting better. I was sneezing constantly, but it's getting better. So I've learned my lesson. I was not willing to admit that I could see when other people were drinking, they weren't showing this like, like relief that I finally have a drink, that I was feeling. So something was different, you know, and I wasn't willing to face it because I thought, not only do I not think I can, but I'm not willing to spend the rest of my life without a drink. And I could not visualize doing anything enjoyable, fun, relaxing, anything, much less doing anything hard without a drink. And in the reading today, in the thought for the day, they call it a blind alley. You can call it whatever you want, but it described me to a T. And when I was listening to this reading, I was thinking, is it presumptuous to say that everybody feels that way, that they're in a blind alley, that they can't learn from their drinking experiences, they make the same mistakes, they suffer the same consequences, they refuse to admit they're an alcoholic, they think that they can handle life, they won't swallow their pride and admit that they're ordinary drinkers, they are not willing to face the fact that they have to spend the rest of their lives not drinking and can't visualize life without that. Yes, I do believe that this thought for the day really speaks to most, if not all, alcoholics. So at first I was like, maybe some people do feel that way. And I'm like, yeah, well, of course they felt that way. So I don't know. It was a really good reading, even though it is just like my response was yes, 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 as I was drinking it. But then we started meditating, and I was thinking about the reading, and and it really put me right back into the beginning when I was first trying to meditate and not being able to find that release that drinking gave me, and the release that I was promised if I meditate. And I just wasn't getting it. But I was willing to try, and that is the key to unlock the door. I always say that that's the key, but today, as I just said that, I'm like feeling it passionately, that when I was sitting there and the hamster was running around in my head, I can't remember what we named the hamster in this podcast, but um, yeah, I can't remember. Was it Henry? I don't think so. Anyway, the hamster was running around my head, and I thought, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep practicing letting it go. And I think it's because for a second, I could feel peace for a second. And if you can pause, sit still, and feel relief for just a second, then it's something that you are willing to start chasing. Um, that's what happened to me. And I'm grateful that it happened to me because I can recognize that ability to reach a point of peace and relief was apparent to me. And when I got to feel it one time, I'm like, okay, I'll try it again. Um, and luckily, I had this meditation meeting regularly available to me so that I could just show up and I could do it. And I had a bunch of people that were there with me, a bunch of people I didn't know. We'd turn off the lights in the room and we would sit in silence. There was no meditation music, there was no calm app. Um, I think there was a handful of times that we actually brought, I think they brought like their phone. They used their phone and did some sort of random YouTube meditation for 10 minutes. But having that available to me encouraged me to do it. If I didn't have that, I don't know that I would have made space for meditation. Um, Another thing that I'm really grateful for, um, what I was thinking this morning is about step three. Interestingly enough, rather than step 11, on Thursdays, we focus on step 11. Which is sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. That's what I'm normally like driven by for meditation. That, okay, Rachel, what you're doing today is you're improving your conscious contact with your higher power, your God as you understand him. That's what the purpose is right now. But this morning, I was thinking about step three, making a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And I was thinking that when I sat down to meditate in those early days at those meetings, I was making a decision to turn my, let's see, I'm trying to carefully pick my words. I was making a decision to turn my worries over, to turn my obsessive thinking over, and to open myself up to the potential for peace and care from something outside of myself. And that to me sounds like step three. That's what it was for me. And every time I sat down, I was making that decision to turn over everything that I'm holding on to. And even if just for a hot second, I feel as though I'm receiving some sort of care, that I'm focused on what is outside of myself rather than the inner battles that I'm dealing with all day long, every day. And by coming there, and this was only on Fridays. So by going there, I should say, not coming there, by going there to that meeting once a week, I was practicing. I was practicing these actions, making decisions, turning over my will, even though I didn't know what that meant. And I'm still working on knowing what that means. I think I'll always be trying to work on what that means. And turning myself over to the care of something greater than myself. And thank God that's what I was doing all of that time, because the more that I practiced it, I didn't know it was happening, but it was getting easier to walk in the room and lay everything out in front of me, release it into the room. All of this stuff that I'm holding on to, all of the bullshit that I had to deal with in my job or in my relationships, whatever it was. And it's a lot in the beginning when I first got sober. I was looking and holding on to all of that stuff, and I had to figure out how to how to turn it over, how to let it go. And that's along with the God box. These are the skills that I was practicing. These were the tools that were being given to me, that were being taught to me. Um, and then, so this was all happening this morning, what I was thinking about. Then I was thinking about, what do I do now when I sit down, and how did I get there? What did it look like in the middle, and what does it look like now? Because I imagine 20 years from now, and I plan on living at least that long, it's going to look even more different. But what I do today is I focus on the network of muscles around my scalp. And the reason for that, my dogs are starting to wake up. They like to take a morning nap after their breakfast, but they're starting to wrestle around in their blankies. Um, Now I focus on the muscles around my scalp, and that is automatic for me because I have a headache. And so I am drawn immediately to remembering what it was like. Do you remember the episode where I said, you guys might disagree with this, but um, I remember some of my last instances where I was drinking, where I would take one sip and then there was this complete release. Um, I remember that distinct feeling from I think it's a release of dopamine. I think that's what I was experiencing. And I remember, and that's interesting for me to point out because I hadn't realized that, I think, until this moment. Unless I realized it the last time I talked about it and I don't remember realizing it. So that release of dopamine, I'm focusing on my scalp muscles and seeking that release. And I think it is a release of dopamine. And I believe that I'm capable of experiencing that by practicing letting go. Because the more I practice letting go, the more I can let go. And I find myself entering this state of there's nothing wrong, just like I did when I was drinking. But when I was drinking, I didn't have to work at it. I just took a swig and it was like, ah, yes, there it goes, you know? Um, Now trying to reach this same state through meditation, it takes some focus, and that is work. It's almost like, you know, when as I'm writing the chapters of my book, and I'm on chapter one. I finished my introduction and I'm on chapter one. But it takes a lot of focus. And that focus has been challenging for me since my stroke. And I tend to procrastinate and avoid it because it's hard. But once I give myself put myself in an environment that allows for that focus. That's the first thing, is putting myself in an environment for it. That's what I do in the morning for these Thursday meditations. I place myself in an environment that allows me to close my eyes. And, I've got my perfect pillow behind me. I've got my little couch, futon or ottoman, whatever. All of those words are wrong. This couch that I have, um, I'm sitting on that with my pillow. I've got my coffee, and I just close my eyes and let it happen. Uh, I let it all go away because I think what I was doing in early meditation was I was holding on to it. I was white knuckling. And the more I practiced, the more I was like, okay, here, okay, I'm gonna let it go. Nope. Okay. All right, just relax, Nope. That's what it felt like. And today, uh, it's similar to falling asleep. And and maybe it's not supposed to be that way, but it's like this ability to I had a word that I was going to use there, but I can't remember what I was going to say. But that ability to just uh let go of the day and sink into my pillow. Only this is like letting go of my circumstances, my problems, letting go of what is right in front of me, even, and sinking into this pillow of which is like a space. I'm trying to explain it, like a space in my mind where there's nothing, and I can sink into that pillow, which is just nothingness. I don't know. It's I'm thinking about the same things that I would think about if I were to lay down right before where I'm waiting for the person to come in and give me a massage. It's like, um, let's just, for the next 10 minutes, nothing is going to happen. I'm just here. And just like when I lay down to go to sleep, for the next 8 hours, nothing is going to happen. I have to convince myself of that in order for me to let go of it, you know? Um, so I was thinking about that. That's what meditation looks like for me now. If I can start by focusing on those network of muscles around my scalp and releasing them physically, focus on physically releasing those muscles around my scalp, it starts to make my headache not, it takes the edge off of my headache. It's slightly, but it's there and I can feel it. And if I can start practicing that, I might be able to do it even better. And with that release of physical symptoms, I begin to release some of those obsessive thoughts about my physical symptoms. That stress about I'm a stroke survivor and I'm going to be disabled for the rest of my life. I am um, going to have chronic headaches for the rest of my life. Like that stresses me out. It stresses me out. It makes it feel like my life is a dead end. But if I can practice these techniques for releasing that, things look better for a hot second, just like they did when I first entered sobriety, just like when I first entered into those meetings. So when I allow myself to mentally sink into that pillow within my mind, I am making a decision to turn all of that stuff over and receive the care of my concept of God, my higher power. And and so that's what meditation looks like for me. Today it's a decision. Um, it starts with the decision to let go so that I can receive care, so that I can receive that release. And then step 11, I am using that practice. Now that I'm in it, now that I've made that decision, I'm open and willing, I can improve my conscious contact with that God of my understanding, and try to learn what that will is, his will rather than my will. As I said in the beginning, I'm still trying to figure out what that is. Um, and I get to practice this for the rest of my life. I mean, that's a good deal. It's a good deal that I get to do this. And I'm really grateful for that. And I have to remember that. Um, and I'll end with this. I I mentioned that I'm trying to be more outreaching for having published writings. So I'm answering pitches from reporters on different things that are related to my recovery daily and the podcast and some of these topics. And so one that I answered yesterday was about the serenity prayer and how do we benefit from it in recovery from an addiction, and how does it help our mental health? So I have 3 episodes about the serenity prayer. So I took some of my insights from all of those and put them into one pitch. So I'm excited. It's something that I'm really enjoying doing. I love to write. And you all know that because of my disability, it's challenging. It's challenging for me, like I said, to find a focus and to be able to look at the computer long enough to get a nice, fat, cohesive um, uh, piece, a passage, much less a chapter. But I love it, and when I love something, I'm going to do it. I'm an overachiever. I'm going to do it because it brings me joy. And the reason I brought it up is because at the very end, when I kind of closed it out and wrapped up how the Serenity Prayer has helped me in my dual recovery, I said in the end, I would I would be remiss if I did not mention that I must follow up each day with gratitude for my sobriety and the willingness to recover. And that's how it all ends. It may start with prayer and meditation, but it ends with gratitude. That's the period at the end of my day. And that was the last statement that I suggested at the end of my pitch. So I'm excited, and I'll let you guys know where and when I'll be published in different things. And I thought, if these things that I'm writing don't get published, I've always got my blog to put them on, which I think don't pay enough attention to. I've really abandoned a lot of writing this year for doing crafts because that makes me happy too. And gosh, I'm working on so many crafts. But I won't get into that because that will be too many topics for this episode. But maybe we'll have a craft episode so I can share a bunch of stuff with you and then promote my Etsy channel. If you haven't seen it yet, I have an Etsy channel, a small growing Etsy channel, and it is recoveryupcycling.etsy.com. Recoveryupcycling.etsy.com. So check it out. You can purchase the stuff on there. The reason I'm doing it is so that I have somewhere to put all of these things that I enjoy making that I don't necessarily need for myself, but it encourages me to keep being creative, and so I get to put the stuff on there. And if you're interested, but you're local to me and you don't want to pay shipping charges, I absolutely am available for local pickup. So just reach out to me if you see anything that you like. I love you people. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.